think we're almost live here on both sides, and just trying to get set up here. I'm Doug Cunnington from Niche Site Project, and if you're watching this, you probably already know that. Oh, that's bright. It's too bright. Cool. So today we're going to talk about just a little simplifying and prioritization. I wasn't 100% sure like where I wanted to go with this topic today, but I think it applies in a lot of ways to niche sites, and I think it applies to, if you have a full-time corporate job. By the way, I think people should be able to hear me on Facebook, but I'm just going to mic myself here to make sure. All right, so I see some people are joining up on the YouTube side. Thanks for joining there. Ronit is on. Thank you. Appreciate you hopping on. And then I see some people joining up on Facebook. If you can hear me, or actually, if you can't hear me and you see my mouth moving, then you won't be able to respond. But hopefully people will just say, hey, yeah, I could hear you. Things have been generally all right, so I think people should be able to hear me. Emil is on. Leo, welcome. Cool. So basically, I don't have a strong story to go on today, so I'll just go sort of freestyle. Oh, Natasha's on, and we have Mr. I don't know the name, but another person, so thanks for letting me know. Good to see you, Natasha. Haven't heard from you in a while. And by a long shot, it looks like YouTube's winning today. There was someone, I think Liz, I can't remember, someone on Facebook said, hey, I can't watch live all the time, but I like to watch the replay, so keep doing them. And really, it only takes like one person to tell me that, and then I'll keep doing it. Because I was about to throw my hands up and say, YouTube's where it's at. I just want to focus on one thing. I just want to focus on one device. But let's see. Okay, cool. I see some questions coming in, so this is good. So I'll keep it pretty quick on the simplify stuff, and I encourage people to ask questions and let me know more stuff. I'll scroll through in a second. But, I titled this Simplify and Prioritize in Business and in Life. And I'll tell you, for the business side, I get a lot of questions from people on just, hey, I think I want to build a niche site. I think I want to build an authority site. I think I want to do FBA, and I heard drop shipping's pretty cool. Also want to do like some kind of, info product, and maybe build an internet marketing site, like a blog, a personal blog, which is way too much stuff. And really, even if you're able to hone it down and focus on like one project, there's still a ton of things you can sort of get lost in. So for example, we talk niche sites here, so I'll talk about niche sites. If you look at the process for like creating a niche site from start to finish, there are many different ways that you can plan out the site. There are a lot of ways you could brainstorm and figure out your niche. There are a lot of ways to develop a content plan, a lot of ways to do link building, and let's just dive into one, like link building. So, and I see Sean from South Africa. Welcome, thanks. I think I saw some comments from you the other day, so appreciate that. And if you're just joining up, feel free to ask questions, ask in the chat, talk amongst yourselves. And I'm going to go through the chat in a second, but I'll try to not get too distracted while I'm talking. So if we focus in on the niche site area, and then we go into link building, then all of a sudden there's like a dozen different ways that you can build links. If you go do some research, most likely you'll end up with even more ideas and different methods to implement each one. So if you look at, what I try to teach is, white hat, where it's mainly outreach and mainly networking and trying to meet people. And it's one approach, but other people will say, hey, if you want to do white hat, you need to scale it. You need to send out 100 emails a day and really spam the internet. They don't say that, but really spam the internet to try and get these guest posts and links, and that's how we're going to do it. So even if you know what tactic or strategy that you're going to do and implement, there's still a lot of ways to do it, and whoever is telling you their strategy and you're going to listen to their methods, they're going to tell you theirs is the right way most of the time. Although I think for me, I generally put a lot of caveats in, and I'll gladly tell you there's a lot of ways to do things. Just pick one and do it. But the point is, most of the time, the simplest way to do it is the best, right? So when we look at the outreach stuff, the issue is if you're just getting started, you're trying to learn about how to do outreach, and you hear from someone and they're like, "Here's how you scale outreach. You need to use this tool called GMass. You need to be able to scour the web and do advanced searches and get a bunch of email addresses so that you can email them. Oh, by the way, you can't send out too many emails per day, or your email address will get marked as spam, and then no one will end up seeing your messages, and then so on and so forth." So as soon as you think about scaling, you are introduced to a bunch of issues and problems that all of a sudden you're trying to figure out, what tool should I use to scale my outreach process. Meanwhile, maybe you haven't sent one email yet, and it turns out if you just do this manually, you could send like 10 emails a day without breaking a sweat. It'll probably take you an hour or so, and you could send out 10 emails a day. No, it's not as fast as 100 emails a day, but the advantage is you'll be able to sort of hone your craft in this case, like hone exactly what your pitch is going to be. Because if you send out 100 emails a day for like a week, that's 500 emails, of course, and then you don't have much time to adjust, right? So you can learn a lot by sending some emails to 10 people and interacting with them a little bit versus trying to scale right away. So the point is, if you actually simplify things, then you'll be able to, I guess, learn a little bit more, and it's less overwhelming, because when it comes down to it, people try to scale too fast. So if you scale an inefficient process, then you just amplify the inefficiency and you end up in a worse spot than where you were. I think there's a much better way to say that. That's a Bill Gates quote. So that's part of it. And then the other thing, and you could, by the way, you could apply that to anything, right? So as soon as you start trying to scale, or you look at a process in a like a more complicated way, where you want to automate it or anything, you'll end up causing more trouble unless you really can like execute a simple implementation of whatever process it is. Okay, so and then the prioritization stuff, comes down to being able to look at a list of things that you need to do and figure out what's the most effective use of your time. For me at this point, I'm sort of looking at not only what is the most effective use of my time, but what work do I enjoy doing? Like, if you could choose what you're going to work on, you may as well pick something that you like, and then I'll eliminate the stuff that I don't like to do as much. So writing is a good example. I enjoy writing about internet marketing, but I don't particularly enjoy writing content for niche sites, just because the volume that I need is more than I could write, and be happy with my choices. So it's much easier for me to hire people, and I was exchanging some emails with one of the students in Five Figure Niche Site this morning. She was taking a look at some like over-the-shoulder videos where I was hiring a bunch of writers on Upwork, and then how I sort of looked at their proposals, their resumes, and I just spent about 20 minutes looking at 14 proposals that I got. I picked 8 and then moved forward, right? So that's a whole other process to deal with. but the point is, I don't particularly enjoy writing it on like a big scale. I'd much rather spend time hiring people and doing the HR portion of it for whatever. That sounds crazy, but for whatever reason, I could manage the people okay. That doesn't stress me out, especially via email. It's very straightforward for me to like hire people, give them instructions, and give them feedback, work with them. If they're not doing what they need to do, they're not working well on my team, then I cut them loose. It's all very professional and stuff, but I'm able to manage people well, and I think I do a good enough job where it doesn't stress me out. So to my point, I got rid of the writing, something that I didn't really enjoy doing, and then I did more of what I liked doing, which was apparently managing people, processes. So that's kind of where the prioritization comes from, where I'm giving stuff that I like to do a higher priority. In other cases, right, when you look at all the things you have to do to build out a niche site, for example, you can spend a whole lot of time on, let's say, the design and the theme, right? You could spend a whole lot of time on design, but is that really effective, or is it really better for you to spend time on something else like getting content on the site or doing outreach or whatever? Usually, right? Usually the design and some of the other details don't matter as much. It obviously depends on whatever project you're working on, but I could tell you on like a niche site project also, I, for a long time I put design like, well, I don't prioritize design now, or I didn't before, but every now and then I realized, hey, I probably need to like take a look at what the site looks like, and is it putting the content front and center? And then if it didn't, I would shift it. So I think it was like a year or two ago, I changed just to a new skin where it was simpler. There's less stuff. I went to a single column where, like I said, the content's front and center. I didn't want a sidebar, distractions. Um, I think I added a couple pop-ups and areas to like opt in, but there's not an excessive amount of opt-in areas or pop-ups to build my email list. In fact, I've turned down the pop-ups because uh, it was annoying. A couple people emailed me, and I'm like, you know what? There's places where people can opt in. If they want to get on my email list, they can. So I'd rather have people that are like actively seeking to get on the email list than for people to have pop-ups and have to react to stuff, distractions that I'm throwing at them. So I'd rather them hop on the email list because they want to. So okay, cool. I see some questions and ideas popped up over here, so I'm gonna get my pad here and see what we have going on. Let's see here. Okay, cool. People can hear me, and then I see we have the story of my tattoo. Okay, so here's another thing as I'm as I'm looking at the questions here. So I'm not sure, but I've been watching more like YouTube vlogs, right? So I'm doing these live streams. I have been producing like videos where I tear down websites, I do screen flows, stuff like that. But I'm also looking at like a vlog where I just cover, the dumb stuff that I do during the day, and other things like that. I realize, I mean, I honestly I haven't watched many vlogs up until the last maybe few months, and I was watching like the Gary Vaynerchuk, like Daily V, and a couple of those, where I watch these while I'm working out, so I'm not like spending a ton of time. I'm like doing two things at once. So I was like watching more vlogs, and I thought, hey, these are a little bit interesting. So I started watching a few others and like learning a little bit more about it, which kind of funny, right? I seem to be late to the late to the party for a lot of stuff, but it's like I guess it's been several years, right? I'm like 5 years late to like the vlog party. However, it doesn't mean, I mean, I started blogging like way after blogs were a thing, and like it's fine, right? There's a market for everyone for whatever reason. I mean, there's a few people watching right now live that made time, and I appreciate it. So that tells me that maybe a vlog could be interesting. So the point is, the tattoo, super interesting. I have like 3 tattoos. I could talk more about them, and it could be like the tattoo episode, right? So there are things that I could put together, and I would definitely I need to be cognizant of like how much time it would actually take, because I think like doing something daily would be like really hard for me if I didn't say outsource the video editing, right? So not that I don't enjoy the video editing, I kind of like it for whatever reason, but it takes a lot of time. And then as I'm watching like other vloggers, especially like the high end, like smart daily vloggers, like they're spending like 2 to 5 or 7 hours editing their video because they're like filmmakers basically, but I don't have that high production value. So anyway, I may do some vlog stuff. If you let me know like in the comments, and if you're watching on Facebook, let me know also. But just give me a thumbs up or say like, hey, I'd watch your vlog. I saw Tahana maybe said that, so I appreciate it. So tattoos, I could talk about that. Let's see. All right, we're scrolling down. We're scrolling, and then okay. Then we got a future video. So Leo asked, you want to hear about what I'm building with the Upwork people I hired. And cool, yeah, I actually could go in depth on that. So there are 2 main, and I'll just tell you straight up here, Leo, but I can go deeper in another session. But I hired, for people that are not up to speed, I hired 8 writers last week to do some work. I rehired 7 of them, and each of the 7 were assigned like 10 articles apiece. So I usually don't assign that many that quickly, but I checked with each one of them, and they were like, yeah, I'm into doing like more work. I can write a bunch. Like some people were like, I could write like 15,000 words a week, which is crazy. That just seems like a whole lot to me. But anyhow, I hired 7 people again. Each were assigned 10 articles. It'll take them 2 weeks to do it, so you could do the math. I have a couple people like on point as my content managers. It's for 2 sites, to answer your question, Leo. They are sites that were already in my possession, and I'm just like coming back to them at this time. And David, oh yeah, and by the way, David, like a quick thing. So David is a loyal viewer and blog reader. I appreciate it. And David sent me an email the other day. He was like, "Hey, your favicon on Niche Site Project is a little goofed up," and it has been for like ever since I launched the site. And I think it's because I use Thrive Content Builder. So like the homepage, just nichesiteproject.com, it doesn't display the favicon that I have, like the custom one. It just has the like the regular WordPress looking little box, right? And I've tried to change it up and mess with it before, but I couldn't figure it out. But that's one of the things where I just like put it at a super low priority, and I'm just like, I tried to look for it. I'm sure it's really easy to fix, but I don't know how to do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about it again. But you reminded me, David, and at this point, maybe I could like fix that damn thing. I don't know how to do it, but if you know, let me know. Okay, and then David. Okay, what does my desk look like? That would be a mess. There's a bunch of post-it notes. So to give an actual to give an actual real look at my desk, I guess I wouldn't be able to clean it ahead of time. So maybe in a couple days when it's, I think about once a week, I just kind of clear things up, and I'm like, okay, these post-it notes need to go away. I get rid of them. But to give a real actual view of how messy my area is, I'll wait a couple days. But that's a good one, because I'm not actually, I'm organized when I need to be. I'll put it that way. That's like a super nice way for me to explain it to myself. Okay, and then Sean from South Africa, cool. Thank you, Sean. And then Ronit says, how do I manage my tasks, projects, and time? What tools do I use? Okay, that's a good one that I could actually take for a full session. But again, I'll just answer the question now. Tools, you know what I have been doing lately? This notebook. So I'm like the weird project manager that um, likes technology, and I like apps, and I like new toys and stuff. I just upgraded my camera, which I was talking about. I got a microphone and all this other. Am I still on? Okay. Do I still have people over on YouTube, by the way? Are people still with me over there? Okay, you're still here. So I'm doing the streaming on YouTube from my phone, and okay, cool. Thanks, folks, for letting me know. So like, I get telemarketer calls every once in a while, and I guess I forget that people can call. I need to turn off like notifications and like shut everything down. Okay, people are back. I'm sorry for the interruption. This is like really raw and everything. So, okay, I'm scrolling back. I forgot what I was talking about. Okay, tools and processes to manage my work. So basically, I do a simple. Actually, this fits in perfectly. Thank you for asking this question, Ronit. I do like the simplest stuff that I possibly can. So I'm using like paper and a notebook. That's pretty much it right now. For a little while, I was using like Trello and like Asana and a few other tools. But number one, Asana is good for like teams and for I guess like yeah, basically teams. That's what I would use Asana for. If you have teams and teams that you're going to work with for a long period of time, my teams that I like build up, usually they're like for a specific project, a span of time. So like these writers that I'm working with, I don't expect to actually work with them for a long period of time. Not long enough for me to like try and train them in Asana or anything like that. Trello seems to be a little bit more widespread when I talk to people. They've heard of and or used Trello. My wife's old company actually used Trello for some of their projects, and they were like a healthcare billing company, not anyone who actually they desperately needed a project manager. They didn't know what they were doing really. Actually, they needed like a tech lead also, just to throw in other stuff. But the thing is, they were using Trello, and they didn't have like the sort of background that I have, or like some of the people on the call here have. So I use simple tools, and it does tie in, thank goodness, with exactly what I'm talking about. David mentions, I was talking about sending out guest post outreach emails, 100 per day. He's like, that's a good number. It's a lot to manage. Imagine if you get responses from 5% of those, though. All of a sudden, you go by 5 days, and that's a lot of emails to deal with. So, all right. And then Ronit also asks, how do I manage my accounts? Who does the bookkeeping? So I do my own bookkeeping right now, but funny thing, I just like incorporated like a month ago. So think about that for a second, everyone. So a lot of people, again, prioritization. For like 4 years, I only focused on like working on the business, and I didn't even worry about the bookkeeping part. Yeah, I lost some money on taxes and the self-employment issue. The taxes that if you're not in the U.S., you may have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, if you don't incorporate, you have some liability issues as far as like lawsuits are concerned, and then you would also have like tax implications. So I incorporated just like a month ago, and I'm gonna need to definitely hire an accountant to help me with my bookkeeping at least this year. I actually don't mind the bookkeeping portion for whatever reason. I don't mind like going and doing the reconciliations at the end of the month. It really helps me keep an eye on like my expenses really closely and where the money is going and where it's coming from. So I don't mind bookkeeping on a monthly basis, but like I've never done like corporate taxes or file. I'm gonna file as an S corp for the people in the U.S. that know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna file as an S corp, and yeah, so that's where it's at. So overall, Ronnie, I do as much as I can myself, which is a little counterintuitive, but I've heard of a couple people just trying to keep in a one person show. And Tahan is on. Thanks for the email. I saw it. I didn't get a chance to write back, but thanks for emailing me. And then Sean mentions keeping keyword research in-house. Yeah, I generally do too. I mean, there's so much that you can do on your own. Tahana says she'd be into watching the blog or the vlogs, and to do a Q&A every now and then. Cool. You know what? That actually makes it easier for me in a lot of ways. Maybe tomorrow we do a Q&A. And then Mikhail says, even SEO is a fresh infancy. Don't worry about being behind on trends. Always something new out there. Yeah. And I think, like, thanks for saying that, by the way. And the thing is, like, it's, I may have referenced it just yesterday, but, like, in that Scott Adams book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big, basically it's like the combination of different things that you're good at is that's like where the magic happens. So for me, I have like project management. I have a bit of a software background, although I can't fix my favicon on my site, but that's a choice, David. That's just a choice. And internet marketing, now I could do a little bit of copywriting, and I have an understanding of just marketing in general, where before I had like zero business background, but launching a blog and trying to sell stuff really teaches you more than probably I could have learned at some business classes from like 15, almost 20 years ago. So and at this point, if I do vlog, it would be like a little bit more of a, it's my personality and it's my take on, what I'm working on. And, I had some ideas because, it's a little bit easier if I like make up some things for me to do. So some of it, of course, would be like totally unrelated to internet marketing. One of the ideas was basically to, go on like 5 hikes around town here in Bozeman, and then that would give me something to do. In worst case scenario, I went on hikes, so that is not a bad thing. And best case, I went on hikes, and maybe some people watched the vlogs. So, yeah, we'll keep that out there because I think if I just get some help with the editing, that could be pretty fun to do. Okay, and I see. Cool, and I'll start calling in for the final questions here. I see we've been going for almost 30 minutes, which I guess I could just keep talking and talking. Oh wow, my point about what you're good at is the sweet spot. Oh wow, thanks, Mikhail. He says it gave him goosebumps. Wise words. I think I was just copying somebody else, but I appreciate you saying that. Let's see. And then someone asked how to make writers to write good content. Okay. And Tahana says she likes hikes and my dog. Cool. Unfortunately, sorry to break it to you, my dog died a couple weeks ago. Pretty sad, but he had cancer. Here's a picture. So this is the stuff that's on my desk. So, yeah, he had cancer. He was like 15, so he finally basically couldn't handle it anymore, and yeah, so he's been gone for a couple weeks. We're very sad. All right, and I see on Facebook, Paul's on. Hello, thank you for joining up. And there were a couple questions over here, and again, I'll call in for the final questions here so we can get going along with our day here. So Rohit asks, do I use any mechanism like an editor to make sure the sites are not violating the terms of service while scaling content using freelancers or agencies. Okay, so the example that is given is even a seasoned writer can sometimes make a human error and include product prices, the Amazon rating, or something else, maybe 1 out of 50, which can still be lethal. That is an excellent point. So, yes, generally, yes. Here's how it works, right? The writers do stuff and they have instructions to not put the price in, to not put the rating in, to speak in general terms and don't quote anything that's on the reviews within Amazon, right? So that's copyrighted by Amazon. When a user types in the review, like Amazon owns that, we can't copy it. So usually when I first start working with a writer, I'll look through everything, right? I'll look through the first 20 articles they write for me, and I'll just skim it. I don't read every word, I just skim it. My editors know to look out for those like 4 things that you listed, because those are like the most important things, Rohit. So they look for that, and then I also spot check after they do their editing and content management. So the writer has instructions, by the way, not to do that stuff. The editor takes a look and makes sure that that stuff isn't in there. They put the article in draft mode, and it isn't published until I go take a look and hit publish, right? So you may be thinking, that's too many touch points, Doug. You can get rid of more. I've done it, and it only takes me like 2 or 3 minutes, and like that checkpoint, that control point where the consequence is so big that like you can get kicked out of the Amazon Associate program, like taking 2 or 3 minutes per article is worth it. Sure, you multiply it out for 100 articles, that's several hours of work, but at the same time, like that several hours of work can make money for a very long time, and the risk is too high to let it go. So there's like 3 checkpoints. One's on the writer, one's with the editor, one's with me. Okay, Paul asked, so how do you make sure what the writers are writing is accurate, especially when you scale up? I go on trust on that one. I don't check it. So it could be inaccurate, but usually I'm trying to work with like better writers that like care about what they're working on. So, okay, I see some more questions come in. And Tahana, thanks for mentioning that about Brody. He was a really good dog. So, all right. So I like this. So Lachey the star from the last blog post. So if you haven't seen that on Niche Site Project, go check it out. Lachey asked a question, and I basically wrote a whole blog post about it. So here's what Lachey mentions. I found trying to hire an SEO for guest posting outreach was not that good. I agree 100% with you on that. They tend to try to do what they think is best, like Web 2.0's web directories, and I had to let a guy go this week. Yeah, it turns out, I've mentioned this a couple times. For people that have watched a few of these, you probably heard me say it, but I'd rather hire someone who doesn't know anything about SEO, and maybe they are an executive assistant or a writer or anything aside from an SEO, because when they come in with like preconceived knowledge, they're gonna like think they know better than me, which they might. They probably do know a lot more than me, but it turns out I need them to do a very specific thing and follow directions. And SEOs, unfortunately, a lot of times don't know what the hell they're doing, and you don't know what they know. You don't know when they learned it. They don't know like what I'm trying to do specifically. So when they second guess me, it doesn't help me at all. So that's why I'd rather hire someone who doesn't know anything, because then I could teach them what I need to teach them. And Lachey says, you're glad you started following me. I'm glad too. You were doing link building way too early. Yeah. Let's see. Tana says, what were my biggest mistakes building niche sites? Okay, so that's a good idea. I will write that one down. Biggest mistakes That could be a lot of posts. That could be a lot of different things there. How much am I paying per article? $14. I pay $14 per article, and then I think Upwork charges like another 37 cents or something like that. So it's like 14.37, and that is for 800 to 1,000 words. And I tell my writers, I mean, I'm paying them a fixed bid, right? I don't pay them by word. And I tell them I'd rather have a shorter article without fluff than a longer article. So I encourage them to edit it down because I don't want throwaway sentences in there. How much effort do I put on social media marketing? Almost 0%. Almost 0%. So I do a little social media stuff. Like if you count like this, like YouTube stuff, then I'm putting time in for niche site project, but for my niche sites, I don't do any social media stuff. Other than like I created a profile, right? So there's a profile on like Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, maybe something else. But basically I'm not active there, right? So can you get traffic from those sources? Sure, but you have to like spend time on it. And kind of going back to the previous point, I know how to do like SEO, and I understand like on page, the content side. I understand the off page stuff, and that's what I'm good at. So could I learn Pinterest stuff to get traffic from Pinterest? I could, but it's not like important to me, and I don't enjoy it as much. So, and then Ronnie asks, do you know? It says, do you know you don't know? Not sure 100% what you're saying there, but I think either you're agreeing with me or you're disagreeing with me, but I'm not sure. Okay, a couple more questions here. Descartes asks, how many niche sites do I have? Like 3 to 4. We're selling one right now. A couple of them are like, I just ignore them for a little while because I'm not interested in them. Some others like I've ignored for like 6 months, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hire a bunch of writers and get a bunch of content done. So about 4, not many. Okay, Renee, I thought you were kidding, but it's always so tough to understand tone within text. So you ever get like an email and you're like, man, that was such a harsh email, but really you don't know how to read it. You read tone. So I thought you were kidding, but you have a valid point. So I thought maybe you were serious. All right. Cool. So I think that's it. I'll answer this one more question that Lachey asked here. Lachey writes, I'm struggling with on-page SEO, like how many times a keyword should be in an article. I was always bad at that. And thanks Leo for showing up. I appreciate it as always. So as far as like the keyword density, normally if you're looking at a shorter like keyword phrase, say it's 3 words, I would only use it like a few times. So that density is probably going to be 1% or less, most likely. If it's a longer phrase, like when we're talking about keyword golden ratio stuff, you're probably only going to use it in the title and then maybe like one time in the copy somewhere. But that's it. And the reason why is a keyword golden ratio phrase may be what's the best pilot pen to use with post-it notes. I'm super unoriginal, so I can only come up with examples that are right in my desk here. So what's the best pilot pen to use with post-it notes? And turns out if you write an article about that, then it's going to be really weird if you use like an 8-word phrase like 5 or 6 times. However, you could use like keyword rich like partial matches like throughout, and that's totally normal. Like you would probably say pen a lot, and you would probably say pilot pen and maybe like G2, that's what I use. You may say like G2 often. You may say, post it all the time, but the whole phrase together, you probably only want to use it like 1 to 2 times. One time in the title, one time in the copy somewhere. So overall, Lachey, like don't use the keywords that often, basically. Okay, cool. I think we're all set. Thanks everyone for joining today. As normal, like and comment. I actually went through yesterday on the YouTube side and I saw that there were way more comments and questions and even messages within YouTube messaging. I didn't even know that existed, that were like out there. So I went through and I'm going to try and stay up to speed on that. And actually, like really deep here, I have been just researching on like the YouTube side of things, because really when I started doing these webinars, like people like started watching, right? So I'm doing more content on YouTube, which of course you could tell because I'm doing these every day. So the thing is, I'm doing a lot of research on like how I can like make a dent and like actually increase view time and followers and stuff. So that will probably be a topic for like next week, because I'm literally learning about it right now. So cool. Thanks everyone for attending, and I will actually let you go now. We'll see you tomorrow.